There have been many cases of child disappearances throughout history, such as the disappearance of the Sauter children, Larry Jeffrey, and Timothy Pitson. Now, with that being said, the most interesting child disappearance case, in my opinion, is the disappearance of Bobby Dunbar. On April 23rd, 1912, Bobby and his family took a trip to Swansea Lake for the day. After various amounts of fun at the lake, Bobby's mother realized Bobby had not been with them, and she didn't know how long Bobby hadn't been with them. So Bobby's brother, his mother, and father decided to go and look for Bobby on their own. But they couldn't find Bobby on their own, so they decided to enlist for some help. They had certain divers go deep in the lake to look for his body. They also had other divers go around areas of the lake where a body could get caught. Then they had another search party go around the railroad tracks and talk to stragglers and see if one of them had taken Bobby or seen Bobby being taken. Yet, no Bobby. They even took it to the extent of cutting open an alligator with the assumption that Bobby had been eaten by an animal, but yet that theory was wrong as well. Months had gone by, and the town had given $1,000 as a reward to anybody who brought Bobby Dunbar back alive. Now, eventually that money was given back to those who contributed to the $1,000 because Bobby still wasn't showing up. But in April 1913, there was a break in the case. There was a man by the name of William Walters who was last seen with a boy resembling Bobby Dunbar. Pictures of the boy were sent to the Dunbars, and they claimed, "That's Bobby Dunbar, that's our son." So a meeting was arranged for them to meet the boy. At the meeting, the police had pulled Walters aside and spoken to him. He claimed the boy was either his sister's or his own, and was giving much more various answers as to who the boy was. Now, the boy, with meeting Bobby's parents, refused to answer to the name Bobby and didn't want to interact with Bobby's parents. So a second meeting was arranged while William Walters was being tried for kidnapping. So at that second meeting, Bobby's mother gave the boy a bath and cleaned him up, and at the end of the meeting, they claimed that that was their son, Bobby Dunbar, and were able to take him home. Now, a woman stepped forward by the name of Julia Anderson and said, "No, that's my son, Charles Bruce Anderson." So they took it to a judge, and the judge said, "No, I'm sorry, that's Bobby Dunbar," and they gave custody to the Dunbars. Months, and more so, years had gone by, and the boy was raised as Bobby Dunbar. Sadly, he had passed, but in 2004, his granddaughter decided things aren't adding up, we need to do a DNA test. So Robert Dunbar Jr., Bobby's son, consented to a DNA test along with Bobby Dunbar's brother, Alonzo. The results came back, and the two were not related at all. But if it had been Bobby Dunbar, they would have been first cousins. So, in conclusion, Bobby Dunbar had gone missing on April 23rd, 1912, while on a family day trip at Swansea Lake. Now, hours and hours after searching and looking for Bobby, the town eventually kind of gave up. But they did contribute $1,000 to anybody who brought Bobby back alive. Now, that money had to be given back because Bobby still had not showed. But in April 1913, a man by the name William Walters was seen with a boy who resembled Bobby. So the Dunbars were allowed to meet the boy and claimed, "Yes, this is our son." But a woman stepped forward and said, "No, that's my son, Charles Bruce Anderson." So eventually, they took it to court, and the judge said, "No, that's Bobby Dunbar," and gave custody to the Dunbars. Now, Julia had claimed, but she had last seen her son with William Walters 13 months prior to. So, with that information, Walters was taken in with kidnapping. So, a DNA test was eventually done in 2004 with Bobby's son, Robert, and his brother, Alonzo. Turns out, they were not related at all. And so that means that the man who grew up as Bobby Dunbar was not even Bobby Dunbar. So first, what happened to the real Charles Bruce Anderson? And most importantly, what happened to the real Bobby Dunbar? Was it a big stunt pulled by his parents for money and publicity and sympathy? Or Was Bobby Dunbar really kidnapped or killed? By now, all of them are dead, but the story of Bobby Dunbar still lives on.